Go.
Alright, so here's my plant setup for the EECS Final. I got my plant, plate to catch excess water, cup which holds obviously my roughly about a liter of water connected to my pump system. The wiring setup that I used, we did moisture meter into the A0 pin slot, and then I used the male connector sides to connect to the relay in slots D10, and then the ground and output cable. Obviously we got connected to our battery line and connected to the pump line. I'll plug in the battery and then run the code. Alright, so pump's working. It is in fact pumping water into the plant. Now it says fully watered, however, because we've reached our moisture level required for it to be fully watered. It only took about a second because it was somewhat already moist from previous tests. And we've got a live running soil moisture over time graph. Alright, so I figure I'd record a bit of a supplementary video so that I can explain a little bit about how the code works to help improve the understanding of the overall setup. If I pull up my MATLAB code here, we'll start at the beginning. Essentially what we're doing is, first of all, we're connecting the Arduino to the computer, making sure that it works. I've also run a catch function so that if it doesn't work, it'll let me know beforehand, and if there is an error involved in that, then I can always just stop the program, make sure it's fixed. I did have that issue initially just because I had a connection issue with my cable, but it was a reasonable thing to implement because of that. Moving on, this section here is for the graph. Using the letter B, we can indicate that the graph is going to be using like a blue line. We've got our X label, Y label functions, so as to label the graph as seen in the video that I had recorded previously with the title, and our axis limits. Moving on though to the important detail, the function used in this case was the while, if, and else if functions. So this one specific here, talk about this section. This here is the if statement that will use the moisture meter to come up with the value for the voltage going through the moisture meter and then depict whether or not the plant needs water. So our first if statement is if the level of moisture is above 3.25 volts, or if the moisture meter is reading at above 3.25 volts, then the system will display that it's in need of water with this little display function. Then if we move on to the first else if, this is where if the level of moisture is, or sorry, the voltage level is above 2.75, then it's going to display that it's watering the plant. Because obviously as you start to add a quick amount of water, then the voltage is going to spike down. Now the second else, or the last else if here is, or sorry, second last else if here is if it is less than or equal to 3.5, which is around the range of just saturated soil. Then we're looking at it saying plant watered, fully watered, and that the machine is shutting off. And the final else if statement being that if the level of moisture is equal to 0, then that just means that the pump is off. Or sorry, the moisture reader is off. Obviously, because there would be 0 voltage to the moisture meter if it was turned off. Now, the only implements that I actually had to add was a change in some of the wiring. I had used male connector wires so that I could also remove part of the Arduino board. It just made it a little easier to connect. Other than that, it is just a pretty standard if through else if statement down at the bottom with a little bit of a catch at the beginning in case the Arduino doesn't connect properly. Thank you.